We started with an internship program. Somebody visited our church from Botswana, Africa, here at Faith Christian Church, and they said they're starting a internship program, and my wife and I looked at each other and said, "This is it, let's go." Hi, I'm Jason Shurik with Him Ministries. We are ministering in Botswana, Africa for the last 15 years now. My wife and I left about 15 years ago. We've raised our children on the field. We have 3 biologicals over there, born on the field, and 1 adopted son over there. So we spent 8 months with this missionary couple, learning the culture, learning the ins and outs of ministry. Came back to America for about another 8 months and did a little fundraising for our own vision, and then went back. One of the things that we got exposed to was prison ministry. And throughout the 15 years, we've done prison ministry quite extensively, to the point where 3, 4, 5, even more days out of the week, I was at the prison, and my wife was as well. I would do a lot of counseling, and one of these prisons was actually a refugee prison, where these people were coming from the hot spots of Africa, and you don't want to hear their stories. They're horrific stories of where they came from, and sadly, they're sitting in prison, and it's the lesser of 2 evils, and they didn't want to get out of prison. We've done feeding programs where we've fed 350 children on a weekly basis. Whatever we're doing, we're trying to empower, trying to disciple, and trying to get the local Botswana coming alongside with us. It's always our goal to leave ministries with the local people, and we've done that since day one.
Good evening. The government of Botswana has reported 4 more suspected cases of the coronavirus since the first suspected case was reported on Thursday.
So our lockdown in Botswana was a little more strict than it was here in America. It was a government enforced by the army, enforced by the police lockdown. You could not get out of your house, and if you did, you'd get beat or put in jail overnight, or actually the equivalent of about a $500 fine. This had a big effect on our people. Our people live a lot of hand to mouth and work for a day for sweeping up somebody's yard. We call it piece jobs over there, and then they get enough to buy food for the day. And so that had just completely stopped. I had prepared myself and my family and some friends quite a bit of food, knowing that this lockdown was going to be rough, but that food was gone real quick. And so one thing led to another, and believe it or not, it was an atheist Peace Corps gal that we had met years ago in Botswana, ended up sending her first stimulus check to us, saying, "Jason, feed the people, help out." And we ended up getting revenue from sources you would never believe, from Muslims over there, from lots of different things. And we ended up being able to feed about 10,000 people over 2 weeks worth of food in that short amount of time. Now, I had got some favor, and I got a permit to travel around freely. So I was around town every day, packing up the food, getting the food ready, buying it in bulk, bringing it back to my family. It was me and my family only, and they'd package it up into little individual packets. Now, being the fact that we can't minister into the prisons, on one of these outreaches, I went up to the northern part of Botswana to visit a missionary couple and just to love on them and give them a respite. But we ended up finding a group of people called the Basarwa, the bush people of Africa. And we just ended up falling in love with these people. I had a real Holy Spirit moment where God told me, without a doubt, He told me to love on these people. And so idea after idea just kept coming, and their history is very similar to the American Indian. And right now, they've been pushed off their land, forcibly removed. A vast majority of what makes their culture has been made illegal. But they can't go back to their old ways. So what God's really put on our hearts is to help them transition from the old ways into what they have to transition into modern society, but do it with Christ in the center. Instead of making their culture wrong or beating them for speaking their native language. And that's what we want to do there, is we want to immerse ourselves in the culture, first and foremost, injecting Christ into all of this. But injecting Christ into their culture. A lot of their culture is much more biblical and much more godly than we may think. And so that's what God has really called us in this next season of our life, is to help them to transition, but to do it the right way. So this is a new avenue for us. I'm 48 years old, and I'm kind of starting completely all over. Been in Botswana for 15 years, but the call of going up to minister to these Busarwa people it's a different calling. We don't have a lot right now. I have a little cement mixer. We don't have land, and I can start making some blocks, and that's what we're going to have to do, is start making a place to live, start meeting with the chiefs, obviously start having a church and start planting some churches around there. I really want this to be God's will and not my heartstrings tugging on. I want my steps to be ordered of God, and not that this is driven by emotion or compassion, but by God's will.